Chapter 32. Page 375. About 4 a.m., the President of the United States landed on the Mammoth Building in New York and was taken down in the elevator to the 110th floor to Supreme Commander Gordon's office. He found Colonel Edna Kenilworth sentinel at the door. She had met the President before and after saluting him asked if he wished to see Supreme Commander Gordon. He replied that he did, and she immediately conducted him to his private office. The President rushed in and found Supreme Commander Gordon sitting peacefully reading a newspaper. The President could hardly believe it and asked him for the facts of the attack upon New York City and if all enemy planes had been destroyed. Supreme Commander Gordon told the President that it was a fact. The President asked Supreme Commander Gordon if there had been any losses to our airplane fleet in destroying the enemy and where our fleet was now located. The Supreme Commander pointed to the Demon of Death and the sleeping gas machines and said, "There is the fleet which has destroyed and captured probably 100,000 of the enemy's planes. Mr. President, would you like to go on a little sightseeing expedition?" The President said that he would. A button was pressed and in a few minutes Marie the Angel of Mercy, Robert's big ship, appeared in front of the window. The President told Supreme Commander Gordon that he had neither seen nor heard of such a ship before and asked him where it came from. Robert said, "Mr. President, this ship was built according to the plan laid down by Ezekiel in the Bible. I worked on it for years and completed it just before the war broke out. Its most useful work is yet to be done." Supreme Commander Gordon then explained fully the working of the Demon of Death to the President. They stepped upon board Marie the Angel of Mercy, sailed out across Long Island, slowed the plane down, drifted very low and passed over the thousands of airplanes which had been destroyed. They sailed over Staten Island and saw the wrecks of the planes which had been destroyed there. Then swung up the Hudson River above Yonkers, descended close to the water and anchored in the air. The President had never been on an airship that was anchored in the air and was amazed at Supreme Commander Gordon's marvelous invention. He handed the President a pair of powerful field glasses and told him to take a look. The river was almost choked with the wrecks of the airplanes which had gone down defying the Demon of Death. Bodies of aviators wearing the uniforms of the various nations were floating upon the waters. When the Supreme Commander explained to the President that he believed that not one of the enemy's planes had escaped, he marveled at the wonderful invention and the fact that 2 men and a lone woman could accomplish such a feat. Supreme Commander Gordon then said, "Mr. President, your greatest sight is yet to come." He then started Marie the Angel of Mercy, sailed out across the New Jersey hills, slowed down the big ship and entered the tunnel through the air. There the greatest sight that human eyes had ever witnessed greeted the President. They passed slowly through the tunnel where there were thousands and thousands of planes unharmed suspended in the air with the aviators all sound asleep. The Supreme Commander then said, "This work was done by the sleeping gas. As this giant horde of probably 50,000 planes moving in sections of hundreds and thousands, one following after another, tried to attack New York, General Pearson and myself worked the tunnel machines and Colonel Edna Kenilworth operated the sleeping gas machine. You can see the effective work and our mission of mercy. We have not taken human life and have gained the greatest victory in the world. These aviators will sleep for 7 days and then awake unharmed. There will be no ill effects of the sleeping gas. We will of course remove the airships and aviators to the Wilson, Coolidge, Roosevelt, Loudon, Harding and Washington airfields, and when they awake they will be our prisoners and the enemy's airships will be in our possession." The President was astounded. He had never dreamed that man could make such marvelous inventions. Turning to Supreme Commander Gordon and grasping his hand, he said, "You have been inspired by Almighty God. You are an instrument in His hands to save this country according to God's plan." The Supreme Commander replied that he had always felt that way and had never taken any credit to himself. That since he was about 8 years old he had been reading the Bible and knew from it that this war was inevitable. That he had spent his time and money to complete these inventions for the day his country would need them. On the way back, Supreme Commander Gordon told the President that the Marie the Angel of Mercy could make a speed of 1,000 miles an hour and that he could easily go round the world in 24 hours. On their return all was quiet in New York City. No one knew what had happened that night. The president could not find words to express his appreciation for this wonderful work. He asked the Supreme Commander what his future plans were. Supreme Commander Gordon told the president to read the Bible, especially Daniel's prophecy in the book of Ezekiel, and he would know what was yet to take place. It was agreed that the news of the success with the demon of death and the sleeping gas machine was to be kept secret and that the president was the only one to know of Robert's great invention. The president returned to Washington on the forenoon of June 9, feeling much elated over the wonderful victory, proud of his native land and thankful that the divine power had given them the man of the hour at the right time. It had been a great birthday for Robert, because his country had been saved. His years of labor had been rewarded, but yet no news had come of Marie. He wondered if she were alive and if she had been watching this terrible war, the greatest of all with its great destruction. When the war was over and the world was once more at peace, what would happen to him, or what would he do? It seemed to him that when the war was over, his life work would be finished. Without Marie, there would be nothing left, nothing more to work for. Supreme Commander Gordon knew that there would be no more attacks that day, so he ordered Colonel Edna Kenilworth to get some sleep. He communicated with Colonel Kenilworth in Boston and found that there had been no further attacks there. The colonel reported that he was ready and waiting to put to sleep more of the enemy as soon as they arrived. The Allied enemy headquarters at the different points in the United States were absolutely without any news as to what had happened to all the planes and airships that had been sent out to attack New York. But in this case, they felt that no news was good news. They were trying in every way with the wireless and radio to reach the commanders of the different fleets, but not a word was received. On the afternoon of June 9, when not a word had been heard from any of the ships or planes sent out the night before to destroy New York City, the Allied enemy headquarters were in gloom. Hope was giving way to despair. They feared that the disaster at Detroit and Boston had been repeated. General Nagato was communicated with and his reply was, "This is a great disappointment. We had all hoped that New York could be destroyed or captured and this would mean the end of the war. It now seems our hopes are blasted. Some devilish invention by the Americans is being used to destroy or capture our ships. Their success seems to be so complete that it is almost unbelievable. Not one report from any man or ship has been heard since we attacked Boston. Now, if the flower of our army has been lost in this attack against New York, our cause seems hopeless. The facts are desperate, but we must face them. Let no further move be made until we know more about what the Yankees have." Supreme Commander Gordon had made up his mind that he would keep everything secret and not let the enemy know anything, but he dispatched a message by radio to enemy headquarters reading, "Very much disappointed. Lost a good night's sleep last night waiting for your army to take New York City. When may we expect the pleasure of a visit from your planes?" This mysterious message was as much a mystery to the enemy as the letter that Robert found on the street in Paris was to him. The fleet sent out to attack Boston had never returned and no word had ever been heard of them. France had been instructed by Supreme Commander Gordon to cease attacking and await further instructions. Everything was quiet on the other side and Germany and England were awaiting reports of the success of the campaign of the United States before making further attacks on France. On the morning of June 13 the aviators who had been put to sleep by the sleeping gas around Boston, awoke. They were feeling good. They knew that something had put them to sleep suddenly but did not know that they had slept 7 days and nights instead of 1 night. Instructions by Supreme Commander Gordon had been given that no harm should be done any of the aviators when they awoke. Scouting planes were sent out by the United States Army to capture the aviators when they awoke or started to drive their planes away, but a few of the planes were permitted to escape and return to the headquarters of the enemy. When they reported that while they were attacking Boston the night before, they suddenly went to sleep and the planes dropped to the earth and water, they were informed by the commanders that they had been away 1 week. This was a great blow to the enemy and they knew now that the Americans had some kind of a sleeping gas which was harmless and would put men to sleep and keep them asleep for 7 days. The enemy had all kinds of poisonous gases and bombs, but they had never discovered a gas to put people asleep for a week, then awake without any ill effects. They now realized what Supreme Commander Gordon's answer meant, that it was some new discoveries which the United States had made that caused them to fight on and not accede to any peace terms. After days of waiting, scouting and trying to secure information as to what had happened, the attack on New York was left a mystery. They waited until the 16th day of June, thinking that if their aviators had been put to sleep there some of them would return. When none of them returned by the 21st of the month and no word was received, they knew that the fleet had been destroyed or captured and that their army had been greatly weakened, but still they held the Pacific coast and controlled New Orleans, St. Louis, and Chicago, and their western lines were unbroken. After holding a conference, they decided to adopt a waiting attitude for a time and see what the next move of the United States would be,